Syracuse added an explosive yet controversial wide receiver in Johntay Cook last night.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Thank you for making this your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Of course, we're always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, if this isn't your first time, you probably recognize a familiar face to the program. Of course, if you're listening on audio, you can't see him. So I will tell you all who we are speaking to tonight, and that is the host of the Locked On Portal podcast, also the host of the Florida State Seminoles for Locked On, and Locked On's very own recruiting expert, Brian Smith. Brian, I know you saw the news last night. Syracuse football added a former 5-star wide receiver from Texas and Washington, for that matter, Johntay Cook. And so that's what we're going to talk about here on tonight's show. We're going to go over his strengths, his weaknesses, how he's going to fit with Syracuse football, how come he hasn't succeeded so far in college football. And then if we have time later on in the podcast, and we probably will, we'll also go over some of Syracuse's offensive line additions over the past few days. So, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time this evening. Let's start off talking about Johntay Cook. What does he bring to Syracuse football?
Speed. He is a blur. Dallas area kid that was a 5-star by some services, top 100 recruit by everybody. Johntay impressed because he basically told you he was going to run by you. He'd run by you, then he'd let you know he ran by you. I got along with him pretty well, and he never really gave me any mess, but like he's a guy on the field that could do a little talking and would back it up. Every school in the country wanted him. He signed with Texas, didn't work out, signed with Washington, didn't work out, and now he is headed to Syracuse. I think this is an important situation for him that he figures it out because that's a lot of talent. He should be an NFL player, but just his speed alone makes him a threat every time he's on the football field.
Is he one of those players that when he's on the football field, he likes to throw up the deuces like Tyreek Hill?
I don't know if it's quite Hill is an extreme.
I know. I was just saying the deuces.
Yeah, he's an extreme character in a lot of ways. But to put it mildly, this is a guy that I don't think you can really underestimate what it means, or overestimate, I should say. If Syracuse has a vertical threat, I mean, Fran and those guys, they proved it last year. They can beat you up in a lot of different ways in the passing game. But when you have a vertical threat like Johntay, and assuming that he figures it out, it changes their season. Now, he may come in and be a bust. I don't know, because he didn't figure it out at Texas or Washington for whatever reason. But if he does, I know Fran and those guys can scheme it up. They are going to be a pain to defend, especially in those third and shorts, because if you crowd that line and you got one-on-one with him, that can be 6.
Brian, you mentioned that speed is one of Cook's biggest strengths. Along those same lines, what are some of the other strengths that Johntay Cook has?
Getting off the line, man. His first step laterally, like he can charge at you with one step and then just like a human joystick go 90 degrees. That's God-given ability, that twitchiness that you can't teach. And the guys that have that usually avoid the first player towards them, whether it's a guy that's up on them, playing off that's charging, whatever it is. Whatever technique you want to do, bail technique doesn't matter either because he'll still run by even if you've got a cushion. So the best thing about him is his speed, but he's also twitchy. If you want to come up and bump him, you better know what you're doing because if you miss at the line with him, it's over. He has goodbye speed.
Is he someone that plays on the inside or the outside for the most part? Or is he very versatile? Can he play both?
I think he can play both. He's going to be more effective like anybody else playing off the line as a slot because it's almost impossible to get your hands on him. But I think that he's probably better suited long-term outside because he's even further away from the linebackers and the safeties. But I don't know where he's at with his route running and all that. And remember, coming to Syracuse, he's at one major disadvantage. He gets 0 snaps in spring. So he's got to learn the playbook and just talk to the players during the summer. I don't know if he'll be inclined to be ready for Tennessee. That's probably asking a lot. That's the first game for the Syracuse Orange. But by the middle of the season, he should be integrated. And if not, I would have to ask why. Because there's no reason to believe that with somebody with his speed and his route running ability and his moves, they have to find a way to get him on the field. There's no reason they would take the chance on him if they didn't think they could. Fran Brown obviously can coach receivers and quarterbacks, so I have a feeling he's going to make an impact, and I hope he does. I enjoyed watching him play in high school. He was a heck of a player.
Brian, how come you think that it could take a while for him to potentially get involved with the Syracuse offense?
Just the playbook and the timing with the quarterback. They're all new. Like Angeli's new. Is it going to be Ricky Collins? He didn't get any reps in the offense. He doesn't know their calls. That's a lot. And the first game, again, is Tennessee. If it was McNeese State, that's one thing, but it's Tennessee. So one error, like you thinking you know what you're supposed to do in this situation or that one, and it's incorrect, ends up being a touchdown for the other team going the other direction. So coaches tend to lean on the side of error, and maybe it'll work out and it won't matter. But I have a feeling that you're going to see him probably play spot duty for the first couple of games. But again, by the middle of the season, he should be indoctrinated into the offense and have a rhythm, which I guess it's Angeli. I still don't know what's going on with Syracuse quarterbacks. But anyway, I'm going to guess it's Angeli. Whoever it is, I would imagine it'll work out. And he's a guy that can be a big home run threat. He may not play as many snaps as some of the other guys, but once he gets up to speed, again, his ability to make plays after the catch and just run by guys on a fly route or a post, that's something you can't teach.
Well, along the lines with the quarterback play, Brian, everyone's guessing right now here on the Hill, including myself. But for the most part, we just ran a Poll Friday episode. Most of us, including myself, do also believe that it is going to be Steve Angeli. But it is fascinating because Angeli just got here in the spring portal window. Johntay Cook, he might be the most talented wide receiver solely based on talent at Syracuse right now. And yet both of them are spring portal additions. They did not come here in December. They did not have an entire spring to learn the system and learn the playbook. So to your point, it could take a little bit for those two to get integrated together and to really build that chemistry. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. You need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. We are joined by Locked On recruiting expert and the host of the Portal podcast, Brian Smith. We are talking about Johntay Cook, the latest addition to Syracuse football, an electrifying talent at wide receiver. He was a 5-star recruit, Brian, and we touched on his strengths and how he needs to get integrated with the offense. But if you look at his production, about 270 yards in his career, 2 total touchdowns. He's played 20 games. Why has he not succeeded so far in college football?
I think the biggest reason is just maturity, learning like all the little intricacies of being away from home, being on time to stuff, doing the things the right way, and the right way is what the coach says. 5-stars oftentimes do things at the high school level and get away with it. Doesn't work that way at Texas or Washington, I can assure you. So they got other guys they can turn to. They're about system. They're about their format, their culture. And he didn't win the day with that. So he's had some off the field issues, but nothing serious. It's time to grow up. If he does that, Syracuse found a gym. If he doesn't, he'll be out of football. It's up to Johntay Cook.
And specifically on the field, where do you think Johntay Cook can improve?
Route running. I mean, he can route run a little bit deeper routes, but the double moves and like the running pigtail, different things that where you stop and start, how you do it, where you sit down in the zone, the little stuff. If he gets a crack at all, like he's just helping himself by doing it. If he gets just an extra inch here or there, nobody's going to catch him. So he just has to learn to catch some of those shorter routes, take the 5 and 8 yarders occasionally, draw DBs up, and then again, it just goes back to God-given speed. Once he becomes a better route runner, he'll get more reps too. Those scramble plays where a guy breaks deep, nobody's going to run with Johntay. He's going to get some freebie touchdowns no matter where he goes. And to be honest, Fran's offense is a great fit for Johntay Cook. Absolutely great.
I was mentioning yesterday on the podcast when we were first reacting to the breaking news here that him in that bubble screen, I think that would be excellent for him. I mean, last year, take your pick on who they would use it last year for. It seemed to always work. You got a guy like Johntay Cook with that home run speed. He could score on any given play. 2nd and 10, you want to do a bubble screen to Johntay Cook? Yeah, you might only be looking for 7 yards on that play, but doesn't hurt if you can go 80. Doesn't hurt to score a touchdown.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you have to pick your poison when you play teams that can stretch the field. Do you just play cover 2, keep everything in front of you, try to beat them up, get fumbles, drop pass, procedure call? It's boring, but that's the way a lot of coaches go. But especially teams that want to be aggressive with Syracuse, that's a business decision. If he walks in, like, there just aren't a lot of corners that are going to run with him. There's some, but not a whole lot. So he changes what you can do schematically, even when like he's the 4th option on a play. He knows that, but the DBs don't. The defense coordinator doesn't. And that's where your running game benefits. Like, he is the hidden yardage guy if he figures it out. Like, the running back should take him out to dinner every week. Seriously, it's one less guy in the box. If he's good, it takes a guy out of the box. Changes the game.
Should help the offensive line as well, especially with their run blocking too, because you have less guys you got to block. Simple as that.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Darrell Gill is someone who can also stretch the field. Brian, he led the ACC last year with 18 yards a catch. I had to double check on that. So how do you think that helps the Syracuse offense that there's not one but 2 guys that can stretch the field?
Well, it depends on how you use them. You can look at it from a couple different perspectives. On certain plays, you put them in the lineup, especially on the same side. It really makes it easy for whoever's on the other side. That's a guaranteed single coverage, pretty much. Secondarily, if you want to rotate them, you always have a burner in the game that's fresh. So you have a multitude of opportunities, and those are guys, again, the defense has to think about it. Do we just want to play cover 2 here? You might see them run the ball more than any other formation when those 2 were in the game, because you see cover 2, cover 3. It's an easy 4 to 5 yard run on an inside zone or draw play. It's kind of boring, but it's effective. Coaches love 2nd and 5. That's something you can look at. And again, they don't even have to touch the football. So if you use both of them, sometimes you utilize them and they don't even touch the ball, and you may not even run the ball. That's an advantage.
I think super casual fans might not be pleased with 2nd and 5, but anyone that's been watching and paying attention to football long enough knows that 2nd and 5 is a pretty good position to be in. Really, if you're, what do you think the benchmark is on those first down plays? 4 yards at minimum?
4 yards is the benchmark.
Right.
Yep.
Well, you get those 2 in the game, first down runs, that should certainly help Syracuse football. Brian, what's your prediction on Johntay Cook? Is this going to work out for Syracuse, or do you think this is just going to be a bust?
I have a feeling that it's going to work because Fran's probably done his research, because I'm sure he has an idea that this hasn't been perfect for Johntay. But at the same time, why would you take him if you didn't think you could make it work? Now, he wouldn't be the first coach to try to change a guy and fail miserably and land flat on his face. That's happened. But being his third school, I just imagine he's going to figure it out, especially once he sees, hey, we've actually got quarterbacks here. Hey, we actually have other guys here. I could be really good. It should be enticing. Should be naturally enticing. They shouldn't have to really promote anything because the offense, even last year, what were they, number one in passing offense? Real close.
They were either one or I think they were number one. They were number one or two. They were so up there.
Yeah.
McCord threw it 590 times.
So I think it's going to be a scenario where if you're going to go after the quarterback and all that, you're going to see some highlight plays rolling across on Fox and ESPN and your local news feeds. It's going to happen. But again, there is a risk factor, or else he would have still been in Texas, but he's not. So we'll see what happens, but world of talent, Mr. Cook.
I mentioned on the podcast so many times, is the juice worth the squeeze with a guy like Johntay Cook? Folks, feel free to chime in the comments section below. Is this a worthwhile gamble for Syracuse football? I think so. Sounds like Brian also thinks that this is a worthwhile gamble because you know what? Johntay Cook is ultra talented. This guy could score on any given play. It hasn't worked out so far for him. He's got some off the field concerns. Nobody's perfect. Let's give him a chance to thrive in this Syracuse football offense. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about Johntay Cook. We're going to move on here, and we're going to discuss the offensive line moves for Syracuse football over the past few days, and that's coming up next on Locked On Syracuse. Once again, we are joined by Locked On recruiting expert and the host of the Portal podcast, also the host of Locked On Seminoles. And trust me, that's going to matter for this segment here. We are going to talk about some of the additions that Syracuse football has made on the offensive line over the past few days. Cam Pringle from South Carolina, a 4-star tackle in the 2024 recruiting class. You got Zach Rice, a UNC guard who was a 5-star recruit in the 2022 recruiting cycle. And you got TJ Ferguson from Florida State, a starting guard for their last year. And of course, you were the host, or you still are the host of Locked On Seminoles. So you are pretty familiar with TJ Ferguson. He did struggle last year. His Pro Football Focus numbers are not very good, ladies and gentlemen. They're not. I'm just telling you the facts. They're pretty bad. Why did he struggle, in your opinion?
I don't think he was coached that well. I don't think that he's got the right attitude. I mean, he's played 2 major programs and been very inconsistent despite having the size, despite having the athleticism, but it's more above the shoulder. It's not whether he can run somebody into the bench. It's whether he knows which guy to block. And that stuff towards the end of your career of college is not a good sign. So part of it, again, I don't think he's been coached that well at Florida State. Now at Alabama, that's a whole nother animal. I'm not worried about what Nick did. I guarantee you they had a good O-line coach. But Florida State, I don't think did. And I think he regressed. So elite talent, but with 1 year left. Does he have the fire in the belly? I'll give you an example. Darrell Jackson's coming back for his last year at Florida State. He was lazy last year. He was their most dominant player in the spring. Sometimes it just happens. How do you know, though? So I need to see it. And just like with the other players that are coming in after spring, he gets no reps with that line. He gets no reps with the quarterback. That's tough. But at worst, he's a player that can compete for playing time. And Syracuse has an opportunity to use him maybe as a tight end and in short yardage or whatever. They'll find something. But I don't know if he's going to be a starter or a guy who sits the bench.
You mentioned tight end. You mentioned tight end. I just wanted to clarify. You mean that he lines up as an eligible receiver in goal line situations. He's that extra lineman. He's not going out to catch passes.
If he does, that means things have gone very bad for Syracuse.
Or that's just a trick play.
Well, I mean, there could be one of those. But consistently, we've got problems. So let's hope that's not the case. But no, unbalanced, things like that, goal line, if you want to use an extra lineman, he could be an interesting player. He's a good athlete. He has the physical stamina to be out there for a whole game. So if you put him in there for a few, I'm sure he'd be a beast. But again, it's the mental stuff. It's not the physical. Does he know the scheme? And without going through spring, that makes me a little leery.
Well, last year, someone did transfer to Syracuse along the offensive line, and that was Savion Washington from Colorado, and he fared out okay, despite him being a spring portal addition. So who knows? Maybe it does work out with a guy like TJ Ferguson, who did start 7 games for the Florida State Seminoles, although they were not very good last year, as we all know. They were pretty terrible. Normally, that's like a badge of honor. You started for Florida State. You're probably pretty good. They were terrible last year, fellas. They were awful. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I know. I covered them. Thanks.
I'm sorry. I just had to mention it. Cam Pringle. Let's move on to him. 2024 4-star recruit. He redshirted at South Carolina last season. How do you see him fitting in with Syracuse? Obviously, you didn't see the field a whole lot over at South Carolina.
He was a big name recruit, a kid that only played like 8 snaps last year, redshirted, which is typical. I think it's just a case where he got impatient and wanted to go somewhere else he could compete for playing time. The SEC wanted him, and he's a lineman. That combination rarely goes out of style. It's got to be a kid that's a really bad guy for other teams not to want him, and I'm sure he had plenty of opportunities. So he has 4 years of eligibility. He'll probably play interior for the Cuse. There's a lot to work with. This is a big piece of clay. Is he going to play this year? He might be the more likely guy to be your extra tight end, to be honest, because he's not necessarily, at least like Ferguson's a guy that he's played a lot. At least he's been through the wars. The other kid, I don't think he's played 10 snaps yet, literally. So if he's going to earn it, he's got to earn it in just fall camp. That's rough. If you see him play at the end of the year, that would be a good sign, A, that he's picked it up, and B, the coaches have understood how to motivate him and get him ready to play. So really talented, and he should be a multi-year starter at Syracuse.
Why not stick with South Carolina, in all honesty? Why not?
I'm guessing that he wanted to start. Like there's a thing, especially with the higher ranked kids, if they don't start their second year, they leave. By the way, it's a terrible idea. But I see it doesn't matter the position. Most kids just won't sit their second year. It's dumb, but that's another story.
Maybe Syracuse gives him that opportunity to start right away, but is that going to be best for his development? I guess time will tell, right? And I don't think he is guaranteed to start, but I actually penciled him in as the starting left tackle. You mentioned, though, that he's more on the interior. How so?
I just think that his body would be best there. Now, he could play either because he's an athlete, but just the way he plays from seeing him in high school, I would love him at guard. If he plays tackle, that's fine. He's got the athleticism to play tackle, but there's a mentality with interior O-line that's kind of hard to explain. Guys that would rather snort than say hello to you, that kind of guy. I could see Cam kind of falling into that category.
Fair enough. Finally, let's talk about another offensive lineman here, Zach Rice. He was a former top offensive tackle in the country in the 2022 recruiting cycle. He committed to North Carolina. Of course, that means he was a 5-star recruit. But in 3 years, he has only played about 40 snaps on offense. His other playing time has mostly been on special teams. So, Brian, how come a guy like Zach Rice, a 5-star recruit in 2022, he's had 3 years, how come he has not been able to succeed so far?
I think there's 2 reasons. Number one, I think he's been banged up a little bit here and there, and it's just kind of been nagging. And B, I just think he was overrated out of high school. I never liked the way he moved. The length and all that, the size was there, but I just didn't like the way his body moved. I always thought he was overrated, but I didn't think he'd fall into this category. Injuries will get anybody. So now the only other question is, and I don't know Zach, does he have the kill in him? If you're going to be a lineman and you're going to play in the P4, you got to have some kill in you. You want to run guys over. 40 snaps, I'm guessing he doesn't have it. If he plays a meaningful role this year, I'll be surprised. That one I don't see working out. He's had 3 years at Carolina. I don't see it, but maybe I'm wrong.
If he does work out, how do you think Syracuse could be the school that maximizes his potential?
They got to figure out what gets him ticking. The motivation, again, you got to want to smack people. Offensive line is not friendly. These are not the people you want to date your daughter necessarily, okay? He needs to show that. That's just reality. Football is not a lot of nice guys. Is he a nice guy? He's played 40 snaps. Maybe he is. I need to see him want to smack somebody. And, of course, got to be healthy.
Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to discuss Johntay Cook, some of his strengths, his weaknesses, if he's going to work out or not with Syracuse football, and also to talk about Syracuse's offensive line adds over the past few days. Brian, where can people find you on social media?
They can find me a lot of different places. TikTok, Locked On the Portal. You can find me at LO_the Portal on X. You also find me at FB Scout _Florida on Instagram and on X, all over the place. And then, of course, all the same places they find your podcast for Locked On Syracuse, the Portal podcast, or Locked On Seminoles. So YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all those places.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian, for taking the time. Once again, everyone, that is Brian Smith, the host of the Locked On Portal podcast, host of Locked On Florida State Seminoles, and, of course, Locked On's very own recruiting expert. Brian, I am very confident that this will not be the last time we meet again this offseason. So thanks, as always, for taking the time to talk about some of the latest transfer portal additions for Syracuse football.
Thank you.